Hello and welcome everyone to part 8 of our UP PGT 2011 economics paper series. Today, we're going to be breaking down questions 61 through 70, which cover a couple of really important topics for your exam prep. So let's get right into it. So our focus today is on two key areas. First up, we have public finance, which will cover questions 61 to 63. After that, we'll dive deep into monetary economics for questions 64 all the way to 70. Both of these sections are absolutely vital for the PGT exam. All right, let's kick things off with public finance. Get ready, here comes the very first question. The question is, which classical economist did not consider public debt, or sarvajanic rin, to be a burden? And your options are A, Adam Smith, B, David Ricardo, C, Malthus, or D, all of the above. What do you think? And the correct answer here is D, all the above. Yup, that includes Adam Smith, Ricardo, and Malthus. So, why is this the right answer? Well, classical economists believed that the real burden of public debt falls on the generation that actually provides the resources. The burden only shifts to the next generation if the current generation cuts back on its savings, leaving fewer capital resources for the future. So the key takeaway is, the burden isn't direct, it's transferred through a reduction in capital formation. Okay, let's move on to question 62. In the Government of India's total budget deficit, or Kul budget gata, what makes up the largest portion? Your options are A, revenue deficit, B, monetary deficit, C, primary deficit, and D, fiscal deficit. The correct answer here is D, fiscal deficit, a term I'm sure you've heard a lot in the news. So what exactly is a fiscal deficit? Well, in simple terms, it shows the government's total borrowing requirements. When the government's total spending is more than its total income, not counting borrowings, that gap is what we call the fiscal deficit. And in India, this is typically the biggest piece of the deficit pie. All right, our next question from Public Finance, question 63. In India, who imposes and who collects stamp duty? Let's look at the options. A, imposed by the central government but collected by the state government. B, both imposed and collected by the central government. C, imposed by the state but collected by the central, or D, both imposed and collected by the state government. This one's a little tricky. And the correct answer is A. Stamp duty is levied by the central government, but the right to collect and use that revenue belongs to the state governments. This arrangement is actually laid out in Article 268 of the Indian Constitution. And with that, let's move on to our next section, monetary economics. We've got some more important questions to cover here, so let's jump right in. Our first question on this topic, question 64, is from Keynesian theory. According to Keynes, how does a change in the money supply affect income? What's the channel? Your options are A, through a change in the consumption rate, B, through a change in the interest rate, C, through a change in liquidity preference, which is basically the demand to hold assets in cash, or D, through a change in the spending decisions of the domestic sector. The correct mechanism here is B, a change in the interest rate. According to Keynesian theory, when the money supply increases, the first thing that happens is the interest rate falls. This lower rate encourages more investment, and that increased investment boosts overall income. That's the transmission mechanism right there. Okay, next up is a question based on one of the most famous quotes in economics. Bad money drives good money out of circulation. What is this law known as? This is, of course, Gresham's law. Sir Thomas Gresham observed that when there are two types of currency in the market, people will spend the overvalued or bad money and hoard the undervalued or good money, and just like that, the good currency disappears from circulation. Now let's turn to Fisher's equation of exchange. The question is, in the equation MV plus M star V star, what does the M represent? The answer is A, legal money. And for reference, the full Fisher equation is PT equals MV plus MV bar. Let's quickly break down each component. P is the price level, and T is the volume of transactions. M represents legal tender money, like currency notes, while M prime is credit money, like bank deposits. V and V prime show their velocity, basically how quickly money changes hands. So it's crystal clear that M specifically represents legal money. Our next question is about an economic situation we've heard discussed quite a bit in recent times. What do you call a situation where you have unemployment and rising prices at the same time? This situation is called stagflation. It's a combination of stagnation and inflation. So the economy isn't growing, unemployment is high, and prices are going through the roof. It's a really challenging situation for any economy to be in.
Now for a question on a core macroeconomic concept. What relationship does the Phillips curve show?
The Phillips curve shows the relationship between C, unemployment, and inflation. The core concept here is an inverse relationship. A.W. Phillips observed that, typically, when unemployment falls, inflation tends to rise. And, on the flip side, when unemployment is high, inflation is often under control. So, let's do a quick recap of all the key concepts we've discussed today. We started with the classical view on public debt and then defined the fiscal deficit. Then, in monetary economics, we covered Gresham's law, Fisher's equation, the concept of stagflation, and finally, the Phillips curve. All of these are absolutely critical concepts for your PGT exam. So, my question for you is this. Which of these concepts would you like us to explain in more detail in our next explainer? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. We'll be waiting for your feedback. We'll see you in the next one, and until then, keep studying.